Hey, legends, and thank you for joining me on a Sunday afternoon. Well, I have another chat with Matt, and I've been a little bit quiet with the chat with Matt for a little while with this COVID situation, and it brings me great pleasure today to kick it back off and talking to Chris Heverin, who is the franchise owner of Spartan Race Australia and New Zealand. And you might know Chris, he's the man behind the microphone at Spartan events, and the man handing out medals if you've been lucky enough to be on stage and shake his hand after, say, winning an HCAT podium or something like that. You'd know Chris. So, mate, I'll just bring him straight on. Here he is. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you? All right?
Really, really well. And if you are watching, guys, give me a hashtag live. I've already got 15 or 20 people on. So if you are watching, give me a hashtag live. Let me know you're there. If you are watching later, give me a hashtag replay, and I can bring comments on screen. So we've got Tash letting us know she's live. How are you, girl? I think a lot of these people are probably hitting Spartan virtual events too. I'm seeing a lot of these people on their socials. So, Chris, you won't be able to see the comments, mate. But as people comment, I can bring their comments on screen. Like Matty Probes is just saying he's live. Robin, Christina, but I'll let you know if we've got anyone coming on and asking questions. Chris, Max DeLacy's here. Daniel Crow, heaps of people.
Sounds good.
Heaps of people, mate. We'll just go through and say hello to everyone first, Chris, and then we'll get into the chat, buddy. We've got Shannon, Kerry, Lachlan, heap of good Spartan races here. So, mate, thanks for taking the time out of your Sunday and jumping on and having a chat with me.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Definitely appreciated, mate. And I thought it'd be good to give you a little bit of a forum to speak to the people who follow One More Rep, and it's a pretty good core group of obstacle racers, and a lot of them are asking questions, and I thought it'd be great for you to come on and be able to answer the questions. I know you're doing a great job of that on Spartan socials, but stuff does fall through the cracks, and people are worried at the moment. There's a fair bit of uncertainty, so it's the more information we can get out, the better. And
absolutely,
I'm sure a heap of people will ask a heap of questions today, so I don't think I'll have to do much. I think they'll just steer the conversation for us. We've got Adrian live, Mikey, and Dora as well. So, mate, first things first. I guess the big question is, mate, do you know when we can get back to racing?
That is the $64 question.
$64?
Yeah, $64, mate. It's look, it's still up in the air. I mean, we put out a cheeky post a couple of weeks ago about save the date for Bright in November, and I put a video out last week about what we're looking to do. But we just made a decision. I think we need to try and have a line in the sand a little bit. We need to have something to aim for.
Yep.
So we are aiming for Bright. And I have reached out to all of the government authorities and venues and things like that to see what we can do. So look, we're probably still a number of weeks away yet from being able to confirm anything.
Yep.
We're on a scale of 1 to 10, we're probably at 2. So, but at least I think we've just decided that after coming into month 3 now, that we just need to be able to try and control our own destiny a little bit. And Bright's our best event, and it's our biggest event, and it's the most popular, and it's a fabulous location. And Bright's also an area that's been absolutely hammered. They got hammered with the bushfires and now hammered with COVID.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be for all of us, it'll be a fabulous place to restart Spartan.
Yeah, mate. I think if you're an obstacle racer in Australia, Bright is probably the mecca of Australian OCR. It's an amazing little town, and it's an amazing little weekend away when the Spartans just come in and take over the place. So it's going to be, I think that one's going to hit the hardest if it does get cancelled this year. I think that's the one that a lot of people look forward to in the calendar. But it's hard for you guys to give answers when you don't know much more than we do, I guess.
Yeah, look, it is really hard, and it's mass participation events or mass gatherings, which is what the government refers to it as. At the moment we're at 10 and 20 across Australia.
Yeah.
So you put a Spartan race like Bright, where we could have 6,000-7,000 people on site at any one time. When you're talking about spectators and suppliers and vendors and staff and our volunteers and everybody, it's a lot of people can all be there at one time. And so at the moment we're at 20. So it's a big difference. But that being said, we're not sort of sitting on our hands. You're probably aware of the new industry group that's been formed, which is called the Australian Mass Participation Sporting Events Alliance. Yeah. And I've been one of the leaders behind that, one of the people driving that, and I'm actually the chairman of it. So, and we've got all of the major players in the industry around Australia, so Ironmans and Sydney Marathons and City to Surf and Gold Coast Marathon and all that sort of stuff. There's a whole raft of people that are involved. We've got the biggest insurer, we've got the registration platforms, we've got Rostify. There's a whole group of people that have come together, and everybody understands that our industry is really under threat. And if you're following the media, which we all are, about COVID, there's not been a mention at any stage by anybody about mass participation events. So about 3 weeks ago, we got a group together, and we've grown that group. We've now got about 300 people who have signed up for it. Wow. So anybody that is tuning into this cast, if you're a supplier or a racer, it doesn't matter. Jump on board. The website, I think, goes live tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday. So it's ampsea.com.au, and it's a really, really important thing for our industry. We need to get a voice, and we need to be heard. But at the moment, I just saw a feed come through before I jumped online, and in New South Wales alone, the arts and cultural industry has just received a $50 million grant. And that's to keep the business alive. That's to keep all of those museums and all of the different performing arts groups to keep them alive. Yeah. Well, across mass participation, everybody's hurting. Like people like Ironman, they're a global entity, but they're in exactly the same boat as we are. They've been shut down. Yeah. We were the first ones to be stopped back on March 13, and with the mass gathering rules, we're going to be the last allowed back. Yeah. So we need to have a voice, and I'm just encouraging everybody to follow that up. I've been putting a few posts up on LinkedIn. As I said, the website will be live this week, and we're putting a lot out to the industry, and we're hoping to get 1,000+ members, so we can really go to the government with a bit of force. Cool. But you're talking millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah. That our industry contributes to the economy. Yep. So it's important that we get recognised, because once we do get that recognition, what that does is that it allows us to come back. Yep. You see, because at the moment, straight away, mass gatherings. Oh no, we can't have mass gatherings. That's no good. But once the economic impact starts to come through, and the various governments around the country and realise that, hang on a minute, there's $1 billion industry here that we've actually put aside, things will start to move. Yep. And one of the things with the AMPSI group is we've got a couple of the top professionals from the health and safety and security area in Australia, and we're developing these risk protocols for mass participation events. And what that means is we're going to be able to go out to government, and whether it be local government, whether it be regional, whether it be state government, we're actually going to be able to give them the protocols that we're going to be following to be able to put on a safe and healthy race. Yeah. And so it's taking up a fair bit of my time. I'm really actually loving it. It's fantastic.
It's a project, mate, while you're in quarantine.
It's great. It's cool. I mean, the people I'm dealing with, it's all CEOs and managing directors across Australia, and we're all, everyone's equals, and we're all having a crack at trying to save our industry. That's fundamental at the moment. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. So I think we're heading in the right direction, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to get some really good results. And when we do, as that goes forward, you're better off going as an aggregated group, as an industry, than me as Spartan walks in the door. You don't get a hearing. Yeah. You walk in there with $1 billion of cost to the Australian economy. All of a sudden people are listening to what we're doing. So it's good. Yeah,
one dude with a sign isn't a protest. He's just a lunatic.
That's it, mate. Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool. And so AMPSI, I know it's. I assume it's Australian. I know the last couple of letters are Sporting Events Alliance. What's the middle letters, mate?
Mass participation.
Australian Mass Participation Sporting Events Alliance.
Yeah. So it's all the events. Like Spartan. It's it's big events where people come together. It's cycling, it's mountain biking, it's obstacle racing, it's ocean swimming, it's running races, it's marathons. As I said, so all the main players are involved, and we've got three main objectives. One is to get the government to provide a stimulus package into our sector, because the reality is from March 13th, our revenue stopped. All of our races had to be shut down. I'm talking about Spartan is obviously at the forefront, but it's the same with literally thousands of event operators. So number one is we need support by the government. Number two is we'll have a best practice protocol that we can all follow, so we become leaders in the industry, not just sitting back waiting. And the third thing is about working together in the future, because as an industry we need to have a bigger profile. We need to have more lobbying, more power. Whether I'll be a part of that, I'm not too sure, but I'm certainly interested, from my perspective, in the next 12 months, really pulling this together so that we're represented as Spartan, so we're front and centre, and we're showing leadership in the community, which I think is really important at this time.
Definitely, mate. Definitely, and just having like protocols for when you do come back, and certain like safe practices and stuff. I know, they've announced Jacksonville, a race over in the States that, some, depending on which side of the fence you're on, some people say it's way too early. Some people are happy for it to come back. But they're talking about cleaning obstacles at every person who goes past, they get cleaned, and I assume it's trying to do things so that we can race, but race safely.
Yeah, look, the Jacksonville scenario is really interesting. I think it's obviously the US is a totally different structure over there,
Completely different,
totally different market, different objectives. Good luck to them. I get it. They're trying to get back. The US events business over there for Spartan is 70 or 80 events. So the strategy is very much get back to market, get back in and build back to that over time, back up to that huge number of events. For us, the market here is a bit different. We have obviously going back to the US, where you literally got thousands of people across the country in America that have a say in whether races can be had and not had. And some places like Jacksonville hosted the UFC 2 weeks ago. So Jacksonville as a destination are being very bullish about showing the world that they're back. And that's good. That's good for Spartan. Lots of other parts of the US are not like that. And here in Australia, obviously, as I touched on before, we're a bit more conservative. Obviously we've had amazing results, but government is very determined to make sure that we don't slip back and have a second wave and a relapse. So we just have to be a bit careful there, mate. It's from our perspective, I'm really looking at it closely with what they're doing. I noticed on social when it did come out that there was a little bit of cynicism from a lot of our Australian audience about what was happening.
Everyone's an expert, mate.
I'm not going to buy into that, but what I'm going to say is that I think that the fact that Spartan US is starting again is a good thing. That can only be a positive. We just have to look at the protocols, the way they're going about it, to see whether that could work. From our point of view, that probably is not going to fly. They're having that strict, because we're a much smaller operation, and we're going to have, it'll limit numbers dramatically. So therefore, it's pretty hard to justify having a 2 to 3 week build and bringing all the obstacles in and 10 containers and all that sort of stuff, and have a few hundred people on the course. So that's really the risk that you take from our side.
And we're in a country that has logistical challenges that aren't really faced anywhere else. So it's especially much easier in the US and in Europe for logistics. So just thinking about, if you guys put on an event at Gold Coast and you've got to fly your crew in, you've got to ship all the gear up in containers, you've got to build it all, you've got to knock it all down. Like, I had somebody ask, can we go back to doing a hurricane heat with limited to 20 people? And it's like, well, you've got to be able to justify, like, what are you going to charge for the hurricane heat to make that viable?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a really good question. I mean, look, I think the hurricane heat actually. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually think the hurricane heat might be our first step back into the market.
Yeah.
So I have actually reached out to the US to get some information about what's the latest expectations there. Again, but with, as you say, that putting on what we call a signature race is a massive logistics exercise, and when you again going back to this mass participation event, even putting on something like a triathlon where you've got the three disciplines, at the end of the day, it's swimming, people jumping on a bike and running.
Yeah.
They're not building an obstacle, not building an obstacle that takes 3 or 4 days to build.
Yeah.
They're not doing it. That's the big difference with what we're doing, and that's what makes Spartan so unique and so special, is that we've got a fabulous infrastructure, and it's a great event. But you look at what we're doing with smaller things. Maybe the hurricane heat is something that we can bring back. I'll see what happens over the next week or two, and that might be a soft way that we can at least get a few things happening. For 20 people, probably not. But if we're looking at 100, which is supposedly what's 4 or 5 weeks away.
Yeah.
If we get to that point, we're going to need time to plan and prepare anyway. Yeah. There's a scoop, mate. That might be where we start back. Awesome. with a hurricane heat or two.
I'll be there, mate. I'll be there. I'm sick for the hurricane heats now. I'm not super fast, but I can put some heavy shit on my back and go long. So that's
okay.
That's my jam.
I'll make sure Richard contacts you with you.
Yeah, cool. For the meantime, you guys have been awesome with the virtuals. Spartan have been great with the virtual events, and Australia's obviously getting behind that as well, and it's been great in the Spartans of Australia group, in my OMR Obstacle Races Fit Fam group. A lot of people are doing virtuals. I've seen a couple do them today. A heap of my clients are doing them. So it's been really nice to see these virtual races sort of come in and keep everyone moving. It's been really cool.
Yeah, what we've tried to do, and I think we've done it really successfully, and I'm very pleased. And I think our marketing team's done a fabulous job with Sarah, Renee, and Dane. Yeah. What we looked at is we said, okay, the US has created this Unbreakable program, and we can't operate in isolation. Pardon the pun. What we've got to do is identify. Let's work together. And we went back to the US guys and said, look, this is going to be our strategy. In Australia, we're not necessarily going to be putting stuff up every single day, but what we are going to do is be very strategic. And one of the things I was very conscious of, and am still very conscious of, is that I'm sure we've all seen lots and lots of opportunistic people that have been putting special offers out and all this stuff and bombarding us with spam across the board. We've been really conscious of the fact that this is a real situation. This is where we're at, and if we can support people through this time, we know that when we do come back, that it'll come back to us in spades, because we've done the right thing. Yep. And that approach. So we've actually. It's I think we've got the second round of merch there. We've given away over 20 grand of merch. Yep. To all of these. There's been hundreds of people within Spartan that have contacted us that have been running virtual training, gyms that are struggling, PTs that are struggling, and we've sent out bucket loads of stuff to be able to people to say, look, use these as prizes, use them as incentives, give them away to your people, and just little ways to. We've just been really keen to help. Yep. And I think from that point of view, that's really important. And the virtual races, we had the Port Stephens one a couple of weeks ago. I think we're about to launch. We've got one scheduled for a virtual Sunshine Coast race in June, so that'll be released if it hasn't already been. I should know, but I don't. But that'll be
the marketing team knows, mate. That's all that matters.
They know what's going on. I trust them. They know what they're doing. Yeah. So it's good. And I think the whole Unbreakable campaign has been one that it's been able to move seamlessly between the US on a daily basis and us being strategic. Yeah. And as a result, we've actually grown our followers massively. We've had a massive growth over the last 2 months, which is fantastic. And obviously people have got more time to jump online, but it also says that what we're putting out there is good quality content and people are enjoying it. So we're getting the results, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, mate. And paying it forward, it's just a good way to do business, And you guys helped me out with a bit of merch as well. I ran a 28-day challenge a little while ago, and Sue helped me sort some merch for the winner of the fittest in the challenge, Brody Merchant, who's an absolute little weapon, mate. He'll be an elite contender in a couple of years. He's a little whippet. He's quick. But yeah, it's good. You put that out to the community, and you aim to help people, and it'll always come back to you.
Look, I just think it's important at this time. I think that it's not. It's even, to be perfectly honest, even if it doesn't, it's not. Point is that no one's ever experienced anything like this before. Yeah. We're all hurting. As I said, literally, from the 13th of March, when everything had to stop, we've had no revenue. Now we're battling on. I mean, we're not doing it easy. We're doing it hard.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of support from quite a number of our suppliers and so on. And our racers have been fantastic in supporting what we're trying to do. Yep. And it's a matter of trying to keep the doors open. Yep. We haven't had to make any staff redundant, so that's been a big win. Particularly, as I said, being part of AMSI, I'm privy to some data across the industry, and there's it's something like estimated at the moment that something like 40% of event operators, major event operators in our space, have gone broke and are done.
Yeah.
They're not coming back. 40%.
Yeah, that's crazy, mate.
When you're talking about literally across this country, there's something like 10,000 event operators.
Yeah.
That's 4,000 people have already shut the doors.
Yeah.
Like, that's just crazy. So we're fighting hard to keep, obviously to make sure we keep the doors open and that we can come back. And when we are ready, I'm determined to make sure we're 100%, everything's 100% in place. There's going to be no hiccups that we can control, and we're going to do it properly, and that's the name of the game.
Yeah, and look, mate, I 100% feel you. My business is just in OCR. This is what I do. So as soon as you turned your events off, I went, oh shit, what am I going to do? Exactly. So it's tough, and a lot of people in fitness, like, look, I don't know the figures, but I would say 60% of all like the single operator people in fitness, so people who are like contracting to gyms, they're done. They're done. Like, they just nobody had the revenue or the reserves to last months of this. So
that's right.
Mate, it's crazy, and it's heartbreaking, and it's good that you guys are getting together with AMC to keep the industry alive, because otherwise, mate, if you can't tread water until the end, you're going to drown, and then there won't be anything to come back to.
Yeah, well, that's right. But also, I think on the positive side is that events are going to play a really, really important role when we do come back. When we are able to announce it, because I think people are really going to be looking for something to do. They're really going to be looking for that outlet. A lot of our events are destination based.
Yep.
People are going to want to, spend the weekend with their mates and their friends and families and get away. I think that events, and from your point of view, the trainers and so on, as we know, you've got to have a goal, and events, events give people a real focus, and it's so that's really important, and I think we've got to keep supporting that and encouraging that. So that's what we'll be doing.
Events are probably one of the best goal structure, that you can have for a client. I used to do other stuff in fitness before the business shifted direct into OCR training. But as far as keeping clients motivated and goal focused and moving towards a certain direction, events just tick all the boxes because they're specific, they're time based. You've always got room for improvement with the different events. It's social. You've got skin in the game. You've bought tickets. As soon as those events, disappeared, many of my clients who were training just for specific events, like Port Stephens, all of a sudden they just didn't do anything for a week, and it's like they're like, well, what are we training for now? So I've had to move the goalposts for them and get them to understand that it's there's other things to train for. The events will come back eventually, but it's definitely I think when it comes back, you're going to get a surge, mate, of people who are just itching to get back out and do this stuff.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so, because that's obviously one of the big considerations as well. That have people got the money? I mean, so many people are on JobKeeper. So many people have lost their jobs. So we'll be very mindful of that and how that's working. And also, I really feel for the destinations and the places that we go to that rely at Oberon. Like Oberon was. I've had so many calls from people involved with Oberon who just from the community who contacted us, just said it was an amazing weekend for them. That they loved it, and that whole region had been smacked by the fires, and the whole place had been really hurting, the drought and the fires, and people absolutely loved it. In the town, it was just great to see so many Spartans in the town, and in the pub on the Saturday night, and everybody having a great time. We help the communities. And the other interesting thing that, Matt, that's come out of the non-for-profit, out of the AMC stuff, the non-for-profits side of things where charities get aligned with events and raise money, the numbers are staggering. You're talking about, I think it's going to probably get to over $100 million that's raised out, $100 million that's raised out of events like Spartan. So people put together their groups. Well, obviously, we partner with the Leukemia Foundation, who are a great cause. And but then you think about all these groups that get together and they say we're going to fundraise for breast cancer, or we're going to fundraise for our friends. Our friends got ill, and we're going to try and raise some money for them, and whether they're in hospital. It's over. It's going to be. It's massive money.
Yep, it's huge, and you see it in like Sydney marathons and City to Surf. There's a huge culture of it.
That's right. Awesome. It's also the fact that that's the important part. That's where our industry has got so many tentacles, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't considered, but yeah, it's big. That's a big thing. And anytime money stops flowing, it's bad. When there's money flowing everywhere, life's good. But yeah, that was something.
Absolutely.
Something I definitely hadn't considered, and we've spoken about AMC a couple of times. I did throw the website address up in the chat for people to see, and I think you said it is live on Monday or Tuesday.
I think it's live. It's definitely not live today, but it's definitely been. I saw the final. It was a meeting late last week where it was circulated around, and it looks really cool. The site, and so I think it was. The plan was to go. Or I know the plan was to go live at the start of this week, so so hopefully it'll be up. But check it out. Hang on, if you can jump on. Anybody can register. There's a drop down box that says, "Are you an event organizer, you're a supplier, or other?" So if you're involved in the industry, the more people we can get involved and spreading the word, the better, because it only helps Spartan, but obviously it helps our industry as a whole.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that was what my question was going to be. Obviously, it's really beneficial for organisers to get involved, but as just people, as Spartan racers, can we go and lend our support and give our voice there? So that's really awesome.
Yeah, no, by all means. I mean, over time there'll be things like petitions and stuff like that, I believe, that are going to be put out there. But at the moment, we just got to make sure that we've got, that the industry's aware of what's going on. So, I've been sending the executive statements and things like that out to some of our government partners and asking them to spread it out to their various providers and so on. It's just really important. The more people get involved, the better.
Well, there you go. Yeah, cool. And mate, we'll shift in topics a little bit. How did you personally? How did you get involved in these mass participation events? What's a bit of your background, Chris?
Well, I started in the sports industry in the AFL in Melbourne. So I worked for one of the clubs for a number of years, and then I basically I left. That was Carlton Footy Club. Cool. And so hopefully they're on the way back at the moment. So I'm hoping this year. Yeah. And so then I'd done that for a number of years, and then basically decided to go out on my own, and went out on my own, and I worked had mainly in professional sport back in the sort of mid to late 90s, and then I picked up a couple of big contracts with the Sydney Olympics, and the Sydney Olympics was fantastic. That's still a highlight for me in terms of I worked. Our company had the we worked with Basketball Australia. We worked with the Boomers and the Opals, and we worked with Athletics Australia. So we did a whole raft. This is for a couple of years leading up into the Olympics and part of the Olympics. We did a big program with Visy Industries, who were one of the major partners of the Olympics. So we were doing
paper provider, like all the. So they make all paper.
That's right,
and
recycling and all that sort of stuff. So we worked with Richard Pratt, who's passed away a few years ago, but he was the billionaire who owned that company, and so that was a fabulous time. And then during the 2000s, expanded quite a bit. We had bloody offices all over Australia, and went over to England, and as well as an office in London, and that was pretty cool. Got to work with some Premier League clubs and county cricket, and we worked with FIFA for a while, and got a bit of experience overseas. And then the GFC hit, and we all had to condense a bit, and that was where I really got into mass participation events as a stream, because we the government were looking for money, had money, and not many other people did, and they were looking for people to create events. So we created quite a number of different events around Australia, and including the two biggest mountain bike events in the country, which we Cape to Cape and Port to Port. So set those up. So anyone in mountain biking will know those events. They're iconic events. So I set those up from day one. And owned and operated them. And
are they still running?
Yeah. We sold them to Ironman a couple of years ago, which was very nice. And
I just bought a bike, mate. I'm getting into it. I hadn't been on a bike. I hadn't had a push bike since I was about 15. I bought one back in February, just before COVID, actually. So it's sort of good timing. But mate, I was out mountain biking yesterday. I'm just getting into it. So I'll check it out.
They're great. They're fabulous events. 4-day stage races. Big event. They're great events. I'd recommend them for sure. They're sensational. Nice. So they're really, really good. So and great, great atmosphere. You ride in the morning. Fantastic destinations. So whether you want to stay local in New South Wales or get at Margaret River's one of the best places in the world. It's unbelievable. So to have our event over there every year was fantastic. So loved it.
Cool.
So and then got involved with Spartan. So it's all been pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, mate. Nice. So mate, you've been in the industry a long time.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Don't look that old, do I? Not much.
So I guess we've got another couple of questions that I was going to ask, but what I might do is I might just go through the comments, just because I've been hearing them ping. There's a lot of questions that people are asking that I know I'm definitely going to cover, so I'm definitely not ignoring your comments, guys. Look, here's one that I've definitely got on my list to ask. Matty Probes has just asked. So Matty Probes won the heart rate fit competition that you guys did.
MyZone,
that was the one. I had the
MyZone challenge.
He won the MyZone challenge. So he's been on stage and got a medal from you, mate. But he just said a few people are asking if Bright does go ahead.
Yep.
If November is the go, can we shift the Gold Coast Ultra at Bright?
Well, I think the answer at the moment is anything's possible. Cool. So the way we're approaching it is a couple of things, and I can cover off. I know some of the questions are going to come, but I think first of all, you rattle them off. There's seasons tickets, registrations. As we've said many times, I think it's 5 or 6 times through our EDMs and so on, is that we're going to be honouring all seasons tickets, all existing registrations with the rescheduled events. Cool. Now, what does that actually mean in terms of narrowing it down? Which events? How's that going to work? That's the unknown. So until we know what our schedule is, then what we're going to be able to do is dig into the details. But I can guarantee that is absolutely in our plans going forward for seasons passes and also for registrations. Yeah. So in terms of the national series, my recommendation, and which I'm pretty sure is going to happen, my recommendation has been that basically we just shift 2020 into 2021, I can't see the dates because of a whole lot of reasons. There will be changes in schedules and changes of locations and things like that.
Yeah.
But the principles of when do we stage the national series, how does that work? We'll adapt that in around the schedule, but we'll definitely be moving the national series. And then the final one is the ultra is that it's absolutely under consideration.
Cool.
So because because of the timing. Now, am I guaranteeing that? No, I'm not. Because of a whole lot of reasons.
We can't guarantee anything.
But I can give you again another exclusive that going to Bright, we are going to a new venue.
Oh, awesome.
We have located a new venue just outside of Bright in Port Punker, and it's going to be epic. We've had Michelle, who is our new race director, has been up there checking. I've been up there. We've both been up checking out the trails. Yeah, Matty Murphy's been up there guiding Michelle through the hills and through the trails. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's beautiful country.
In terms of the festival site, parking, everything like that, it's going to be the best probably in Australia.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable, the setup. So we're really excited about that. So if hopefully when we do get back to Bright, that'll be it's going to be the big challenge. So it's going to be a brand new site, brand new course, brand new everything.
Wow.
And it'll be a 10-minute drive from the town centre. So
it's about 10 to 15 out, Porapunka. I think it's just out to the north a little bit, heading back towards Albury.
Back towards, and it's literally 6 or 7 k's, I think, from the centre of Bright. So it's really cool.
Big news.
And, we're really excited about it. So hopefully, again, we don't want to get. We're trying very hard, as you can see. I'm trying to stay calm about all this, but we've just got to.
Don't paint yourself into a corner, mate.
We just can't put the horse before the cart, But in terms of the ultra, it makes sense to be able to do the ultra at Bright. So, and one of the things that we've been trying to do all the way through this, and I'd urge everybody, is common sense is got to prevail here, and that's across everything that we do. So. And I would, certainly a call out to everybody. The support we've had from our racers and suppliers, as I said before, has been outstanding in terms of just supporting us, understanding what's going on, and working with us. It's brilliant. And as soon as we're able to get going again and get moving, we'll be able to put in place all of those arrangements. And I'm sure 99% of people will be happy. You can never get satisfied by 100%, but I reckon we'll get most. Yeah.
No, well, that's awesome, mate. And look, we say fingers crossed. Hopefully, we'll get back to Bright, but we will eventually, definitely. We're just in a bit of a weird sort of holding pattern at the moment. It's everyone's sort of holding their breath and waiting for things to get back to business as usual. And is that going to be 3 months? Is that going to be 6 months, 9 months? We don't know. That's throwing darts with the blindfold on, but. I know you guys had a lot of interesting stuff in the pipeline, a lot of cool stuff coming. Obviously, the announcement that Bright's in a new place. What previous to COVID, what were the plans to expand and grow? How were you planning to make Spartan better for 2020 and 2021?
Well, I think look, it's really interesting. I think the Marvel Stadium event was a really cool event. We're really happy with that. Marvel, which is obviously Disney, our partner in that event, are super keen for that to go ahead again. Cool. Now, obviously, with what's happened, I can't see that happening in February next year because of all the change of dates, AFL, everybody being shifted around. This year we only had one weekend, one window to do Spartan at Marvel Stadium. So we'll see how that goes. But Marvel are keen, the stadium's keen, we're keen. Cool. We thought that was a really a signature event in terms of doing a stadium race every year or every 18 months in our market. People loved it. The atmosphere there. I mean, obviously you were there with a big group, Matt. The atmosphere was amazing. It was just a really cool way to start the year, and it was a great event. So we were really pleased with that one. It
was absolutely epic, and it's tough because there's this mentality of some people that, I don't want to just travel for a 5K event, but it's such a different, like the stadium was such a different event to say a Beast. And you like they're both incredible, and you still had the amazing community. You still caught up with all the legends. There was an awesome bar at the stadium there, and awesome accommodation. Like it was such a uniquely different experience to say a Spartan Oberon. I love how we go in and take over a town, but going into that urban centre, it was just different, and it was epic. So.
Absolutely, and I think it only has the potential to be a really, really strong signature event going forward. That people really look forward to and attend. And as I said, look, under the circumstances, this is again something that we're looking at, whether we're doing things annually or like every 18 months.
Yep.
Or 2 years. That's how we need to be thinking now, a little bit differently. So in terms of other plans, we were obviously we'd announced Adelaide, and we were keen to go back to Adelaide. And again, that was a partnership with Adelaide Oval, and that was a sprint. But again, we wanted to get the Adelaide community back engaged with Spartan.
Yeah.
And so not quite sure what's going to happen there. Again, the venue is a big issue with all the AFL, with all the changes. So that was a really cool plan. New Zealand is really interesting for us. Very, very passionate in New Zealand. The event last year was the coldest and wettest bloody event they've ever done. It was, but it was incredible. The way the Kiwis responded is that if you don't like a bit of rain, a bit of cold, you're not going to live in Auckland. So
that's it.
All the Aussies were whinging, and the Kiwis were absolutely lapping it up. So. So I think one of the New Zealand event, we'll be announcing this week, but the New Zealand event will be rescheduled. I'll announce that officially, and we've got no choice there, as everybody knows. But so what that does is that opens up potentially some more scope into New Zealand because of the timing of when we do that. One of the issues with doing international events is the actual freight and logistics of being able to get the obstacles around. And so, again, we're going to have another look at just trying to do that a bit differently, or we are going to do it differently.
Yep.
And so that maybe we can fast track that movement between the countries. Mm-hmm. So that's something for the future. And then I think the other side of it is you've got venues like the Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Port Stephens. We were really excited about. Again, that's going to be a different course. It's going to be a bit challenging. It's not going to be quite your elevation, but it's got some parts of that course that are bloody tough, and it's going to sort a few people out. And then there's a few other things in the pipeline that we'll just see what unfolds. We're in discussions at the moment with another international destination to host Spartan. So. Cool. So we'll just see. We'll just see where that goes. Again, that was held up by COVID, and whether or not we go that way, I'm not sure. But we're keen to make sure that the signature races are preeminent. Yep. So we've got to make sure that they are the priority. And last year we had a little bit of a logjam in Melbourne over the end of the year and the start of the year, and that was purely because of because of timing, and we couldn't get caught without an event at that time. We ended up having a couple, and so in some ways that was it was probably one too many, but at the same time we couldn't then not have anything. So so it turned out, but anyway, it turned out fine. And so looking forward, I don't know, with growing the business and growing Spartan, I think we're going to be much more strategic and making sure that our events. One of the interesting things at this time is that there is going to be a logjam of events later this year, early next year. So we've got to make sure that certainly the first half of next year, our events really stand out.
Yep.
That they're really special. That they are, they're fabulous locations. That they're epic. and when people are making a choice to say, well, I go here and do this or do that, then that Spartan's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be our philosophy,
Yep.
And that way then that we can then build the business throughout next year.
Yep. And I think that's a really good strategy, because I think you're right. People are going to be a little bit spoilt for choice, and also people are going to have restrictions on how much they can spend. The economic impact of this is huge, and when you've got more choice and less money, you want to make sure you're standing out and you're one of the best options. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. We've got heaps of people on live, heaps of people watching, which is cool. So I did just have Shannon ask a question. Is Gold Coast officially cancelled? I know you've said nothing's on or off the table, and you just you can't confirm anything, but it has been removed from the calendar. Is it looking like that's definitely off?
What we've done is we've put everything on hold in terms of we're not doing any sales.
Yeah.
I would think that realistically it's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why we sort of said, okay, let's look to Bright. Look, if things loosened up, obviously at the moment the borders, we all know about the Queensland borders, is a massive issue.
I'm just about to move to Queensland, mate. 3 weeks I moved to the Gold Coast. I'm trying to work out how I'm going to do that, but yeah.
There you go. So so look, I think there's all of these things. What we need to be able to do is have a is have a good lead time, so we've got time to prepare, to market it.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of things behind the scenes with procurement and all this sort of stuff we have to do. And that's why, going back to what I said before about the hurricane heat, the hurricane heat does potentially give us the chance to maybe run 2 or 3 of those in different markets. Mm-hmm. We might do one in Sydney, Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland.
Yep.
To get things moving. But at the same time, the whole borders thing is a massive issue, and we just have to be patient. So, really, at this stage, Gold Coast is doubtful. It's extremely doubtful.
Yep.
And then you've obviously got Adelaide in October as well, and then we're targeting Bright. So we'll see how we go. We are talking to all of the venues at the moment to check availability for next year, to check availability with councils, and we're not clashing with anything that they've got. So there's a whole lot of this stuff that goes on behind the scenes and we're starting to have that outreach now. We'd sort of targeted beginning of June to really start to ramp that up, so we know what. But again, it's amazing what happens is that on my board in my office, we've got 4 scenarios, and that's all going to depend on what the government allows us to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and there's a lot of moving parts. I came out of a background of logistics and project management, and I'm not involved with getting these Spartan events up and going, but I can just imagine the scope of, if the government says next week, all right, in 2 weeks you can have mass participation events. That doesn't mean you're going to be doing it in 2 weeks. It's going to be months. You've got to man it all up. You've got to plan it all. You've got to get council permits. You've got to ship everything in. You've got to make sure that staff are there. You've got to market it so you've actually got people turn up and make the event viable. So, I think people can get a little bit critical of, when you guys maybe can't deliver things as fast as what people would like. There's a lot of moving parts to consider, and a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes that I think maybe a lot of people aren't quite aware of. So
that's good. Look, I think we do an outstanding job. I think we've got a really, really dedicated team.
Yep.
They've stayed heavily involved and heavily engaged. People are working really, really, really reduced hours, but they're working over and above the call of duty big time. They're really tight. They catch up for drinks regularly on Zoom, all that sort of stuff. There's a really good community within our sort of management team, if you like, and everyone's supported each other. It's been great. So, and I think the events, I've been to quite a number of different Spartan races around the world, and what I would say is the grass is not necessarily that much greener on the other side.
Yeah.
I think what we do a pretty good job. And I've had a number you'd be amazed at the number of races that I've had come up to me and say, Australia is the way you guys do it, the friendliness, the way people treat us, just the Aussie way. is so great, and so so I'm not going to bag anywhere else. I'm just going to say that and I know that with the likes of Paul and Max when they started Spartan, that certainly was something that they were very proud of, and they did a great job with it of getting people involved, and it was the Aussie way of doing things, and we've tried to keep that going. And albeit things are much tighter now in terms of what you can do and what you can't do, and the Spartan structure, but that's all fine. But at the same time, it's still the friendliness and the great customer service and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Our volunteer program is fantastic, and Street Team is doing an amazing job. Street Team, and they're still actively involved. So we've got a great community. It's fantastic.
You can tell there's a lot of passionate people. And that culture always comes from the top down, So seeing so many passionate staff and seeing so many, that goes on to the volunteers. We've got really, really good, helpful volunteers, and that flows down to having good races as well. Everyone's happy, everyone's helping each other. I think OCR as a community of people is one of the best communities I've ever been involved with. Just so many interesting personalities and so many people willing to help each other, and it's great to see that comes from it comes from the top, comes from you guys, and filters its way down.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things about working in the industry, in the events industry, is which I say this to our guys all the time, is that it's we actually get to experience our product. Mm-hmm. And you think about there's not many industries where you actually get to do that. You're actually physically living and breathing the product. You're there with people. Yep. People come across that finish line, they get the medal, and they've been working 6 months to achieve that, and you've changed their life. Yep. We sort of respect that, and everybody understands how important that is. And I think that's the making you a good team. You're all on the same page, and. Yep. People really, I think it's really important that we understand that, and I think that's one of the things that we try to do all the time as a group. Make sure we're in mind. What's the racers thinking? What do they need? What do they want? Look, we don't always get there. I mean, we have stuff ups, but it's also we try to fix things up. And sometimes human error. I know an example at Bright last year. We just. We had an issue with the super medals, and it was purely one thing. There was the wrong medals were picked up in the warehouse, put on the truck, and they weren't double checked. They were sitting in the same spot. And they were being handed out at I think it was like 4 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon. Yeah. We had them there at 10 o'clock Sunday morning. Yeah. Because we knew what they were. It was just a human error that somebody picked up the wrong boxes. Yeah. And and again, probably 98% of people were really, really cool with that. And then but we all life is just very hard to get 100%.
It's fucking impossible to get 100%.
We recognise the 98% of people who said okay, they got it, and so it's not all it's not all perfect. We get that, but at the same time. We've got a team that, as I said, they're really dedicated and they want to do the right thing, and they're doing it for the right reasons. And that's, sort of for me, that's really important that I know that, there's a level of trust there and, everybody's doing the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about, putting events on, and one question that I guess I had, and a couple of people did ask, I prefer the longer term stuff. That's just where I've naturally sort of gravitated over the years. I'm a big fan of an ultra, and it's always interested me as far as viability of events and putting events on. Are there any restrictions on what Spartan Race International tell you for putting on events? What is it that governs just one ultra a year? Across nine event weekends. Is there a reason for that spacing? Is it just having the prestige of that event?
It's the trifecta. Well, first of all, the trifecta weekend, we're only allowed to have one of those. Okay. So in each territory, so in each market. So effectively, therefore we actually could have a trifecta in New Zealand because it's a different country.
Perfect.
So again, you asked me before. That might be something that happens in the future. We'll see. But at the same time, we've got to be careful that we don't. So we're sort of playing around in that space a little bit but we were playing around that space. At the moment, we're not playing around that space at all. But we'll have a look, once things settle down. In terms of the ultra, it's one a year, and it's got to align with the calendar, and the ultra. It's a big event to set up, and it's a costly event. So it's actually it's absolutely not a money-making event. The ultra, it doesn't cover its overheads, but it fits in with the rest of And one of the things that we have to be, we just got to be mindful of in terms of the way which we set the races up, is that we've got to make sure that when you put on an ultra, the hurricane heats and all that sort of stuff, a number of those are really. Then, if they were being put on their own, they're not commercial. Yeah, they're not commercially viable. But as part of a big weekend, that's also one of the reasons why we've extended out to the Sunday for the kids races, which we've been able to double our kids numbers in the last 18 months, more than double, triple our kids numbers. Awesome. And one of the reasons we're doing that is because. It means that on the Saturday we can focus totally on the adult races and make sure we deliver a great experience. And then on the Sunday, when the families come back, they get the full festival. They're able to use we're able to adjust a lot of the adult obstacles to be able to make them kid size. Things like the rope climb, they go halfway, they don't go the full way. Hurricane, the Hercules hoist, we change the bags over so there's lightweight bags, so the kids get to use the same adult equipment. So that's become really popular. And financially that's a good thing. That helps. That's we're packing down. Our builders can still be out on the course packing down the big obstacles that are not used. And what that does is that sort of means that we've got 2 days of really cool activity rather than trying to jam everybody into one and doing something half-assed. We're doing both days properly. And that's the same thing with the ultra. So very mindful that the ultra is really popular. It's an important part of what we do. And like if we're able to get back to Bright Eye, I'd say it's a fairly strong. Pretty strong odds that the ultra will be shifted to that event, I would think. Yeah.
Cool. And mate, it's awesome what you guys are doing with the kids races. I was at the 4-hour hurricane at Oberon on the Sunday there, and we all lined up with our packs on and stood there at the start line and gave them an aroo and watched all the kids run off. That was actually my godson's first Spartan race. He's 6. So he'll be a future elite, mate. But
he's a lead stunt. Yeah, hey, there are plenty of elites in there, mate.
Give him a little while. But yeah, mate.
Again, I thought that was a highlight. It was huge. The great thing about that was that the kids got a fantastic buzz out of that first 100 or so kids that ran out on the course.
Yeah.
Parents loved it because they're all running with them. Yeah. But the second thing is, I think the hurricane heaters got as big a thrill out of that as the kids did. It was a pretty cool experience.
We just got to stand there and not do anything for 5 minutes, which was great. It was the rest, mate. It's time to eat a Cliff Bar. No, it was awesome, mate. There was a bit of adrenaline, standing there and getting a high five my godson as he ran past. It was, mate, it was incredible. It was a good thing, and seeing a new wave of kids get off iPads and get out there and get muddy, mate. It's great. It's great for the sport.
Yeah. Well, we've got our standalone race. In the Latrobe Valley in Victoria, which we've we're doing with the Victorian government down there, Latrobe Valley Authority, and that is a really great event because that part of Australia has been absolutely smashed, and the reason the government approached us down there, the local authorities, is because that's where they shut the power station down, lots of unemployment, and they needed to have things to stimulate events. That is, they've got the Big Bash cricket down there, the netball, the AFL, and so on, and they've got Spartan, and but our race being a kids only event means that it gets the whole family involved,
Yeah.
and which is really, really important. So, and that's something unique with the Spartan Kids races that I reckon is brilliant. Is that the parents actually get to go out in the course with the kids, and that's something that you don't see very often. And I reckon that was brilliant, and it's a great part of what we do.
Yeah, and look, it's awesome for the kids as well, and it's probably a feeder for the parents to get into the sport too. Like you're probably getting, friends of kids at school who are saying, getting their friends to come, and then the parents are turning up and going, "What's this Spartan? What's this crazy world I've just walked into?" So,
absolutely, and we've noticed a lot of families have been coming up, and parents doing the adult races on the Saturday, staying overnight, kids doing the race on Sunday, kids race, and that's a big thing. That's really important as well.
Yeah, well, things like your Bright Weekend and stuff, they're now family holiday destinations. It's awesome. Well, one question that I did get asked from Rob and Kilby: do we have any new obstacles planned? Is there anything? We love new obstacles. We obviously just had the Twister get released here. Is there anything else, coming over in a container when restrictions lift?
I would say probably there'll be a hold on that for a while, based on the COVID situation. There hasn't been any new obstacle. Spartan had already made a decision to stabilise.
Okay.
There'd been a lot of change in the sport the last 3 years. I can't remember what the number of new obstacles is that we've introduced into Australia, but it is over 20, and that's been that's a big commitment from us financially as well as But I think one of the things is as a sport, we need to make sure we're not changing too much. We've got to actually grow the sport. And so that's why I touched on earlier. One of the big focus for us is making sure that the courses are, are really top class. The experience is top class. That's a big part of what we're focusing on. So I think Oberon was a really good example. I mean, I think people loved that. It was a little bit out of Sydney, a little bit further than probably what some people probably would have preferred. But at the end of the day, once you got there, as you know, and all your crew and whatever, it was an amazing venue, and it was a great course, and people loved it. And so they're the sort of challenges I think we've got to put our energies into, and then make sure the obstacles and it all sort of, the environment and the course itself and everything and the obstacles all mould in together.
Yeah, it was a great event, Oberon, and hearing that you guys have announced a couple of new venues and stuff, like, I guess without throwing too much variability in with the obstacles, you can just focus on getting the venues right and doing what you do and doing it really well, rather than and putting on these 5-star events that you guys are known for, which is cool. Amanda Muldoon just asked, any plans to head back to far north Queensland or WA or even Northern Territories, or anything on the pipeline for any of those areas?
One of the thoughts that we've had, and the New Zealand model for this year being the super at an urban location, is a test for what we could potentially do in places like Townsville, Cairns, Darwin. I did get approached by Darwin last year as to whether we would head up there, and obviously Perth. Because of the tyranny of distance, the cost to go over there. When we did the APAC Championships in Perth, which were a fantastic event, we were fortunate that we got quite a significant support from the WA government, but basically that money that we got off them was basically logistics, was freight. So we had to ship everybody over, fly everybody over, and that was a big ticket item. It was a big number. And so to be able to take our full complement of stuff up to either of those markets is probably not going to happen, because it's just too expensive. However, the reason we started developing a couple of years ago the city race, or we called it the urban, and Spartan International have picked it up and have called it city. So, but we did invent it. So it's our but the reason for that is that was to be able to do a really cool race close to the city centre, easy for people to travel to, in a high-profile location like the MCG, like Sydney Olympic Park. So that's the sort of model that again, going back to Ellerslie, our thoughts with Ellerslie were that if we can do a 10K race, a super in Ellerslie, a 5 and a 10K, in a location that we can do in winter, because getting your equipment in and out is really tough. Then that opens up the opportunity then in the future to go to Perth, Darwin, definitely up to far north Queensland. I mean, who doesn't want to go up to Cairns or Townsville and have a weekend up there? It's fantastic.
Definitely. Are they lighter, like from a cost standpoint, to bring in the urban events? Is that easier to set up than say an Oberon?
More than half.
Yeah, wow.
40.
Okay.
So we have 10 containers.
Yep.
For New Zealand it was 4.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right. So for Melbourne City it's 4. So then you think about cost wise and all the overlays into that, and you start to put and tighten up the travel, and it's a lesser build time. So all of a sudden things come down into so logistically it means that and that's always been one of the plans, to try and grow Spartan into new markets or older markets to go back to, because so instead of a 2.5-3 week, it can go even longer than that. In the signature race, it brings it back down to like 10 days. So if you do all the everything, then all the costs come down. Obviously, we don't get as much revenue in, but for being able to put the events together and it just makes sense. So
the more viable they are, mate. The less numbers you need, the less bums in seats you need to put the events on, the more events you can put on. So it certainly makes sense to me. And as I said, I came from a background of logistics and project management, and I don't know all the moving parts in what you guys do, but I can probably put a guesstimate on what it would cost you guys to run APAC, and it would be like APAC over in WA, I mean, and it would be a big number. I know I just got a quote just to move my house to the Gold Coast, and that's a fucking scary number. So, I wouldn't want to move Spartan race from here to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, well, we're moving a few houses, mate. Let me tell you, every time. But that's all good. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But it's also trying to be from a business point of view. And it's not all about the business. It's about getting into the right locations, and that was one of the reasons why I touched on it before about the 18 months. If we'd always had this plan, which sort of COVID's thrown us out a bit, but it was to have a number of locations on like rotation. So, and also we've had discussions about Tassie as well. We had a chat last year with the Hobart City Council, who were talking to us about bringing a city sprint to Hobart. So again, really cool city, great location,
It's a nice city.
So you sort of look at that's the way in which we can afford to do it, and then people, and we can introduce a lot of new races to Spartan, and that's what it does. It introduces a whole new market, and then what we want to do is grow that market to be able to, because we know that 89% of people who do one Spartan race do 2. So it's a big number. So it's getting them back again. It's
an addiction, mate. I don't know if it's not the cheapest addiction I've ever had, but it's certainly an addiction. But mate, what you guys do is incredible, and getting people back to bigger events, like what Spartan have done with their trifecta system is fantastic marketing.
I think it's really clever. I mean, I think next weekend is the 10th anniversary of Spartan, as you would have seen.
Yeah.
So it's sort of been floating around for about 20 years, but in its current form, it's 10 years old. And I think some of these marketing programs like the trifecta and the volunteer program, which is fundamentally a frequent flyer program.
Yeah.
You build up your points and you get a free race. It's things like that are really clever. They're really clever. They're really smart. They're industry leaders, and I think there's a lot of stuff that Spartan should be very proud of. And to have 10 years and the growth that what I think I saw this morning, 7 million. People around the world. It's a staggering performance. It's great.
Yeah, Yeah. And Jim's letting us know he's live. He's just said it's bloody expensive business. Most races don't understand that. So that's the Bullard. Adrian's letting us know. Great stuff, fellas. Adrian Mannix. Matt Day, I love that guard of honour in Oberon. So he was there at the Hurricane Heat with us.
We might have to make that a permanent. I'll talk to Richard about that. Make sure that's. Then we'll make sure that's locked in as a permanent feature, because I think that it was brilliant. It was great.
It was epic. If you can give me more rest time in a Hurricane Heat, I'm for it. We've got Peter Nisbet. Thanks, Chris, for a great update, insights, great thoughts, and hopeful and optimistic future for Spartan Down Under. Thanks for all that you and the Spartan Race Australia staff and crew do for this community. Much appreciated. So he's obviously won the I think the Spirit of Spartan Award last year.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So we're really involved with the community. Mikey Groom saying Oberon was a logistical nightmare for the overall build, but one of the best experiences.
Well, Mikey would know, because he's one of our festival managers, so he knows what's going on. So does a great job. But it was tough logistically, and the weather hurt big time.
Yeah.
And again, we got away with it, and which was great. And our team did a fantastic job. So but it was a tough gig, absolutely.
Yeah, they always do, mate. The build crew, little Paulie, he's an absolute legend on the build crew, and Mikey, he's always getting stuff done. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's been good to see you guys, being proactive in getting stuff done. But the merch, launched the new online merch store. You obviously signed a new deal with Cotton On. Making the merch. I think was that 2020 that started, or did it start
late last
year?
Yeah.
I think Gold Coast.
Quite simply, the arrangement we've had with Spartan International is that there's only been one global shop, which around the world. Yeah. So Scott Nilsson, who's our international manager of Spartan, is a really good guy, and we had a number of chats about this is unprecedented, and we'd agreed that we'd only sell our merch. The Australian event range would only be sold at the events in Australia and New Zealand. Yep. And it was launched late last year. Bright was the first really big weekend with the new range. So we've only had a few events, and Spartan International were happy for us to open up the store here just in Australia and New Zealand, and cool. Obviously we've got a warehouse full of stock that we need to pay for. So it's really cool. I notice you're wearing one. I'm wearing one.
This is probably my favourite hoodie, actually. It's just right, mate. It's not too thick.
Yeah. So we're actually releasing. We've released 30 items late last week, and we're going to be building on that. And then this week, I'll give you another scoop. We're about to announce Afterpay. So that's going to be the first Afterpay in Spartan. So
awesome. It's
another first. So we're partnering with Afterpay, and we are looking at whether we can do something with Afterpay for our races when we return. So
that'd be good.
Afterpay success is incredible. Like it's I think it's age group 18 to 39 in Australia. 40% of all retail sales are done through Afterpay.
Wow,
it's an incredible figure. Yeah, it's a great success story. So
to get more people to races.
We're doing the merge store to test. We're going to be launching that, and then hopeful that we can do something with the races with our tickets, because I think that would be a really a game changer. Again, we sort of floated that with Spartan International, and we're looking at how we get that done, because people are going to come back. Yeah, we all know this whole JobKeeper thing is affecting 3.5-4 million people. Yeah. I'm well aware that how tight purse strings are going to be, and if we can help with Afterpay and things like that to get people back, that will be a big help.
Mate, I think that's an excellent way to get more races. Being able to afford events, because it can be a big chunk of money. If you've got to pay for like a trifecta weekend and you 300 whatever it goes for. I usually get season passes, so I'm probably a bit out of touch with individual event costs. But yeah, mate, it's any way that can make it a little bit more affordable and a little bit easier for people to digest just means that more people get to events, and that means you guys can put on more events, and the whole sport grows, the whole industry grows.
Yeah, well, that's the name of the game. It's about making it accessible.
Yeah. Do you know, off the top of your head, mate? Do you know what the link is for the new the merch?
It's on the homepage of the website.
Okay, so just spartanrace.com.au.
There's a you go to spartanrace.com.au, and it's there's a tab, not more than a tab. There's a panel there that it takes you straight to the new store, so which is great.
Yeah, so, cool. And that only launched. Was that this weekend that it launched, or did it? Yeah,
it just launched. I think it might have been Wednesday or Thursday. But it went out. It launched Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, cool.
And then there is a sale until midnight tonight. Anyone who's tuning in,
awesome,
20% off.
Jump on now, guys.
And then I think we'll be having a few other. We're launching some of the other product in the coming weeks. So
cool. And one other question that was asked that was also on my list. With the merger of Spartan and Tough Mudder, obviously Joe's brought out Tough Mudder over in
I've been waiting for this one. Yeah.
In the US. Obviously Spartan is a franchise in Australia. Tough Mudder is a franchise as well. It was my understanding that Tough Mudder Australia wouldn't have been affected by that buyout. But is there, any look between you and Tough Mudder Australia for any collaboration in events or anything like that?
Look, it's a really good question in that we're now part of the same family. The Tough Mudder events in Australia is under license with an IMG as the company that owns that license. Like us, they're on hold at the moment.
Yep.
And I think that I have had discussions with the Tough Mudder guys out of their MD out of New York, and I've spoken to the Spartan people about it, more to find out what's going on. At the moment, we've had some really good collaboration in the last couple of months, just in terms of dates and things like that, and trying to make sure we don't clash.
Yeah, cool.
As a very basic intro.
Yep.
So from that point of view, that it's been very, very basic. What's going to happen in the future? Look, I don't know. Does Spartan and Tough Mudder as a business combine in Australia? That's one of the questions I've been asked by a lot of people. At the moment, I don't know. It's from our point of view, there's a lot would need to happen. Is that the model that Spartan / Tough Mudder would want out of the US? Yeah. Do you want competitive tensions in the markets? Therefore, and I say that in a positive way, that often where you're being run separately, you're competing. So there's lots of ways to look at it.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm asking the questions. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Where it goes, and then but I suppose 100% of my priority at the moment is to make sure that Spartan survives and thrives in the future, and that's number one.
Yeah, you've got bigger problems right now.
Yeah, and Tough Mudder is a totally different business model.
Yeah,
and and so we just need to look at it and see what get. I mean, I must say that again, probably for the record, as they say, I'm very big on. I've felt all the way through that we need to have a strong industry.
Yeah.
I think to have a strong Tough Mudder is important. I know that True Grit has recently changed hands.
Yep.
I knew the previous owners well, and we talked regularly, and we're trying to be supportive of each other there, which we were. So I think it's important that as an industry that we have a strong group of players where people, so we can grow the number of people in OCR.
Yep.
That's the key. That's the key to me. That the more people that are getting into it, and the more profile that we get as Spartan, the more our events are going to grow and prosper. Whereas not, because that's one of the big challenges. Constantly getting new people into the ecosystem is really important.
Yeah. And it's great that you guys are working together, at least with no date clashes. I know Spartan Bright and Tough Mudder Sydney have clashed for the last couple of years. and it's hard because I have to go. Well, Sydney's a local event for me, but Bright, I'm going to go to Bright, but we're not the US where they have 30 Spartan events in a year. I think they have more stadium races than we have complete events. But their market's much bigger, and it's a different landscape over there, and they have the population to support it. But in Australia we don't have those numbers, and I think we don't have as much choice here, so you can go to a couple of different races. I do go to the True Grits, I do go to the Raw Challenges, I do go to the Tough Mudders when I can. I get to all the Spartans, and it's great that you guys are working together so that you're not clashing, because I think OCR races in Australia will just take whatever they can get too. I think we've certainly got our favourites, but if I can find another excuse to go and get muddy on a weekend and there's no Spartan on, I'll go and do that.
Fair enough. Yeah, well, that's right. I think common sense has got to prevail, and I think we've got enough other areas to compete in. There's enough competitors out there that we can't control. And again, look, we're going back to what we talked about at the start of the chat. That one of the things that's on the table with the AMC group, industry group, is to ultimately have a calendar of events where the big events are not banging heads. Yep. So so even things like Ironman triathlon and whatever their biggest event of the year wouldn't be scheduled at the same time as a Tough Mudder or a Spartan trifecta or whatever. So that same with making sure we're steering clear of the city to surf, and that the Gold Coast Marathon, the Adelaide Marathon or whatever, that we're not. So that's all part of that thinking in the future, so that we have a streamlined a strategy. Yep. So that the industry can survive or thrive. I mean, we're competing for that, for the disposable income, and NRL starts next week, AFL in a couple of weeks. You've got cricket's talking about what they're doing, soccer, whatever. So we're still competing with that dollar, and we're competing with restaurants and going out and having a good time, and so we've got to make sure we're well structured going. And so to me, there's some of the big changes that I can see happening in the future. That with what we're doing, and that hopefully we'll be a lot more organised, and it'll be better for the races. Hopefully they'll have a better experience and a much more streamlined approach to what's going on. I think that's going to be one of the big outcomes of this.
Mate, it's great. The industry only gets better, and at the end of the day, the consumer wins. So it's
absolutely,
it's awesome. And Micah Groom's just thrown up the link for that Spartan shop. He's all over it. Good man, Mikey. I actually went for a little mountain bike ride at a place called Lake Parramatta yesterday that I didn't even know existed. And Mikey messaged me after he saw my story and said that he runs there all the time. So Mikey and I are going to go running. And he just said, did I say shibby? I don't think so. I don't think I've ever said shibby in my whole life. Jim Ballard's just said, Matt, did you guys touch on SRA season passes being honoured into 2021? So Chris has already said that. Obviously can't say, anything for certain, but people will be looked after.
What I can say, what I said is 100% that season's passes will be honoured, and so will existing ticket registrations. However, what I can't give the details on is what events. So therefore, absolutely, and we've said that. As I said, I've said that we put that out in EDM and a number of times, but I absolutely 100% that's what we'll be doing, and then once we know what events we're able to run, when we can run them, then we'll then come out with a firm alignment to the. Bear in mind, we've already had a couple of events, so we're going to need to align, what we do going forward to make sure it works for everybody.
100%. Cool. And mate, I think I'm sort of getting to the end of my list of questions. I'm just going to quick scroll through here, but I think we've pretty much covered the lot at the moment. Was there anything else that you wanted to come out and say? Was there anything else that we maybe haven't touched on?
No, look, I'm really good, mate. I think I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's been a good opportunity to, to have a chat and spread the word, and that it's it's a incredible time. It's not something I would think that any of us would ever experience again, and I think it's important that we keep communicating, we keep together, and from my perspective, we're starting to be able to move now into a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We have to be patient, and we've got to be careful. We've just got to, there's a lot at stake, and the next few steps are going to be really important for us as a business perspective. And in doing that, we're going to be looking for real support from everybody. Yep. And look, when you're in a situation, like we're in, and talking about as a country and as an economy, we're all going to make decisions and make hard calls and things like that. And unfortunately, we're not going to keep everybody happy, but we're going to try and be fair and be really, have common sense prevail.
Yeah.
And our thinking is that we've got to look after the people that look after us. So people like seasons ticket holders, people that have already committed to registrations and buying tickets, for me, that's really important. All of you guys are the ones who are supporting Spartan as a business and as a brand. Well, first and foremost, our priority is to make sure we look after you guys. So that's what drives everything we do going forward.
Yeah, awesome. And one question that was just asked from Matty Day, who I believe you've also given an age cap podium medal to, is what can we do? So what can the racers do, outside of sharing on social media or inviting friends to events, getting people involved to help these, to help keep this industry alive? Is there, aside from going to the AMC website in a couple of days, what else can people do to help you guys out?
Look, it's a brilliant question, and that's great for Matt to raise that question. Fantastic, thanks. It really is about spreading the word, and it's about getting a positive involvement. We've got I think that some of the programs that we've got are really quite leading the industry. I think our gyms program's been fantastic.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of growth and development in that space. So getting gym groups together, PTs to come back, spread the word, positive message out on social media. Bringing new people into Spartan, all those things that you listed there, Matt, are really important, and it's creating a really positive vibe around what it means to be part of Spartan. Because that's where people come back, and so often we hear and we see that people have come and done a race and they've got, God, we didn't even know this existed. This is amazing. So in terms of getting that word out there. A couple of years ago, we set ourselves a goal to try and make Spartan a household name by the end of this year, by the end of 2019, and I think it was 2019, started 2020, and we're not there yet. I mean, we obviously had the Australian Spartan TV show that gave quite a big impetus, which was really good, and unfortunately, the way in which the show was put together wasn't quite, to what we wanted, and what the public wanted, more importantly, because not enough people watched it. But I think that was a big catalyst. But we've certainly sort of settled back a bit, and whilst we're out there pushing as hard as we can, and we're doing various television advertising and lots of digital media and stuff like that. How we are going to grow and how we are going to make sure before we even get back to growing, get back to get back in and be sustainable is by word of mouth. That this is huge, and get involved, and these guys are going to come back. Hey, get behind it, and come along and do the event. So hopefully, fingers crossed. In a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks time, we can announce that we're coming back, and it'd be great to be back at Bright, because I think with a new course, new venue, new challenge, I think it would get a lot of old Spartans will come back and say, well, that's something new and something different, and we love Bright, so let's come back and have a go. So that's what we think. That's what we're thinking about doing.
Yeah, cool. Cool. So just word of mouth. Tell your friends. Drag them off the lounge. I think Spartan and OCR, but Spartan especially, just has such an amazing progression. You know, you can get people into a sprint and then they can step up to a super. Like, you don't have to tackle an ultra. You can get somebody who maybe isn't so reasonably active and dip a toe in the water without too much concern. So,
but I think you're right. That's one of the things that Spartan has got is so unique, and that you can start as it when we did the interviews with the elite racers last year at Bright, and they'd all started the same. They got brought along by a friend and they did a 5K sprint. Then they were being dragged in by timing to say, hey, your times were this is your first race and your time's up there in the elites. They all started the same way. Yeah. All those guys, and they're off racing in America in the World Championships or in the APAC, and so that Spartan has got that incredible progression and process that very few other events have. So I think that's another message to be put out there. You can compete at your own level, and you can go as far as you want to go. So, which is definitely
brilliant. That wasn't my first experience with a race. They didn't grab me and say, mate, you're an elite time. I think I finished my first sprint in an hour 40, and it was getting dark, and I think they nearly had to send people out to look for me. But mate, it's an amazing. It's an amazing thing getting and now being a coach in OCR, getting people in to these events and seeing it change lives and seeing them keep raising their own bars and tackling the bigger events. It's awesome. And mate, it's been amazing having a chat today, Chris, and being able to ask you these questions and maybe being able, for you to be able to deliver this info in a bit of a different format to what you would be usually. We're getting a lot of love, a lot of people saying thanks for the chat. So, mate, it's been absolutely amazing. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday and having a chat to us and having a chat live in front of all these really passionate OCR racers.
My pleasure, mate. No, thanks, and well done with what you're doing, Matt. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for promoting the sport. And I've really enjoyed it. Good stuff, mate.
Awesome, mate. And you stick around. I'm going to end the live, but I will. You and I will keep chatting on Skype after we go. But thanks everyone for tuning in today, and awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day.